Dude, thanks so much. I know you're super busy, so I appreciate you taking the time.
No, there's always time for you, brother.
Oh man, that warms my heart. How are you and your family doing?
Family's doing well.
Yeah,
Family's doing well. Yeah, very grateful. Um, since Roxy is a food company, we get to go into work every single day.
yeah.
So it's essential. It's considered an essential company, part of the essential infrastructure
Is it
state.
like the master or the parent company?
Yeah, Roxy is a parent company. Yeah. So we do every single day.
Ooh, something's coming in. The sounds. I don't know if it's my sound or yours. Maybe it's me. No, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, so Roxy's the parent company, and you guys are you've been able to go.
Yeah, I've been able to go in every single day.
How's that look like though now with COVID and people having to put on PPE and stuff like that?
Yeah, so we are required to wear masks at work and obviously practice social distancing. My immediate team is mostly offsite. We
Okay.
have most of my team is remote, so we do that. Um, I do have a couple of teammates that are coming in once a week. There's one teammate coming in once a week, another teammate that's coming in twice a week, and I try to go in every day. I just personally prefer it. Um, I, I like to work from the office.
Me
It
too.
kind of gets me in the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a harder time doing a lot of work. I can do calls from home. I can do call. I can do Zoom from home. I can do FaceTime from home. But once I don't have anything scheduled with another person on a call. It's just challenging. It's challenging for me to do emails and things like that. So that's something that I realized is a huge blessing for me to be able to go into work. And I know that a lot of people don't go into work now, or maybe have even lost their jobs. So
Right.
I think in the midst of COVID-19, there's been a lot of things that I've come to really appreciate, like even more than before, for sure.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
want to get into what you appreciate, and then also, does the manufacturing is some of the plant stuff done here at your site?
Yeah, we technically don't have any manufacturing. We do have repacking. So we repack. We have bulk commodities. We have beans and rices and things like that. Organic beans, organic rices. So there are commodities and items that we purchase in bulk. 50 pound. Usually it's a 50-pound bag of some kind of a commodity, and then we repack it to our own size. A consumer size that would be a pound or 12 ounces or what have you. So yeah, we do have a repacking facility, but I don't know that it might be considered manufacturing. But the thing is, in my mind, manufacturing usually involves, like really heavy machinery, and our machinery is basically limited. We do have machinery, but it's packing machinery.
I see.
Yeah.
And have you guys had to has that impacted staffing because of everything going on, or is it sort of still been able to go about it the day to day like it was before?
Yeah. There has been some, I guess, from the perspective of, like, I mean, people have gotten sick, not from COVID as far as we've been able to ascertain, but people have gotten sick, so they want to beat out. In general, people are concerned for their own safety, and so of course we've given them the option to work from home or to just take time off, PTO. With the government, there's an additional amount of PTO that's being given right now.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of there's government support, and then there's obviously us as business owners that want to adjust to the realities and be sensitive to just people's very valid concerns for themselves, for their families.
Right.
Yeah, so there's in terms of staffing, yeah, in general, there's been a lot of like HR and staffing types of issues and questions that have come up in the last couple of months that we just, okay, let's work through this. Let's
Right.
figure it
Right.
out. And then some people, the thing is though, some people like myself, I love going into work. Like I just man, I want to keep going. Other people, they might feel a little differently.
Yeah.
Most,
I like it
I would
too.
say, like everybody, they want to work.
Yeah.
So, but as much as possible, many of them want to work remotely. But I have one teammate who's just like, I'm going to come in like as frequently as I used to come in. So he's been coming in like in his, usual, according to his usual pattern and practice.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's just like every person's a little different. Every individual's a little different. And so it's been, I think a lot of work has gone into how do we adapt to the situation and how do we adapt to each employee's own preferences for how they want to, how they want to work through this time period.
Yeah. No, because what I'm noticing is a lot of small business owners, because of this, they're being impacted negatively, right? Their business is the growth of the business has slashed down by 50% or more, and they've had to adjust staff or letting go, furloughing, salaries being reduced for a period of time. And so just, curious if that's been a major impact for you guys as well. But
on my own team, we've seen this last month, the purchase orders have gone down significantly, really, really significantly. We'll see what April looks like. It's hard to say. Obviously, at this point, it's April 25th.
Right.
We'll see what April looks like. We've got another week or so before we get those numbers.
Right.
On the Roxy side, on my parent company side, the first couple of weeks of quarantine, people were making a mad dash to stock up on certain products. So the funny thing was, in the first few weeks, we were actually going overtime.
Yeah.
We had to work on some. I personally didn't, but some people in the parent company side, they had to work Saturday.
Wow.
For a couple of weekends. So that was different. But then actually these last 3-4 weeks or so, it has been slower. We have seen a decrease in business for sure.
Dang. So for Chimes, are you guys seeing from a business perspective, most of the people are purchasing it in the store at location versus like online or through a site like Amazon or something like that, or your own website?
You mean just during this period?
Or no, in general, I guess business before.
Oh yeah. Amazon is in our top 5 accounts. So that's a significant portion of our business. But brick and mortar is still takes the lion's share of our business. Yeah.
And then people aren't going out to stores or not as frequent, then you're going to see your purchase orders go down.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So yeah. How about you, man? How's it been for you?
Fortunately, been keeping myself busy. Sure. like you, I feel like I am more productive at the office. And fortunately for real estate, they were considered essential maybe about 3 to 4 weeks ago. And so it's been nice being able to go back to the office. There's not many people there. It's just sort of limited. And so we're just keeping our distance, utilizing conference rooms when we can instead of just the offices nearby. So that's been nice. Deborah doesn't like it. She's like, why don't you just work from home? Just do these webinars, just work from home. Keep safe. Right. But at the same time, just like there's still people actually looking to buy because the interest rates are so low. It's like a 60-year low, and there's not as much competition as there was in February or early March. And so they're like, I'm only competing against 2 or 3 people. Let's do it. I have finances. I'm not dependent on the stock market. Health is relatively okay, and then the job is consistent. So there's no reason for me why not to be looking right now. So it's been interesting, but at the same time, it's much slower.
Yeah,
you had to fill out all these disclosures documents saying that you don't have COVID, even if you do or do not know, and then all these procedures and certain people. If you have kids, you can't show your kids. We were joking around. We were like, we as agents would open the door and then we text message our clients saying that, hey, it's ready. I'm going to go to my car. And then once I'm at the car, you can go in one at a time. And then once you're done, text me and then you leave. And then I go and wrap it up and trying to keep it that way. It's not that crazy to that extent. And yet at the same time, some people are calling for it. Some sellers just want to be more cautious than others.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, I think I might have mentioned to you a couple months ago when we had tacos, but I'm in the middle of actually closing escrow right now.
Yeah. How's that going?
My agent was just saying, man, we snuck this one in. Like, this was a close, like we got it onto the market just as the quarantine was starting, and so he had, I
Oh,
think he had like one, maybe 2 weekends to show open house, and then after that, I guess real estate at some point was considered non-essential.
right. Yes, yes. Or there was like there's this gray area because
Yeah,
there's like lockdown. And I was like, well, is real estate considered essential or not?
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
he couldn't show, but he, I guess he had, I forget. Anyway, I don't want to get into all the details, but we're in escrow right now, and we'll see. It's just, yeah, it's
Dude, praise
good.
the Lord, you guys are in escrow. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
yeah.
Do you happen to have any backup offers?
We do have a couple of backup offers. Yeah,
See, that's good, man. That's really good. Oh,
yeah.
dude, that's awesome. Awesome that you guys are in escrow because we're seeing the same thing. We were really scared going into it, uncertain, and yet at
Okay.
the same time, we're seeing multiple offers. One of the homes that we had was like 55,000 above list price, and so we're like,
Wow.
yeah, if the neighborhood is desirable, if it's in a good school district, conditions good,
Yeah.
then people are still interested. If it's the other way
Sure.
around, yeah, good luck. You're probably gonna stay on the
Yeah.
market for a while, and prices are you're gonna have to slash your prices to get it competitive.
Right.
Yeah, so
Very
that's super
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm really glad to hear that you are, keeping busy. I think keeping busy is one of those things where it's obviously it could be, if you become too much of a workaholic, that's not a great thing.
yeah,
But but I think in these times I feel like there's could be some forgiveness for that, It's like
yeah.
these things are just so unstable and so crazy that I think staying busy, going into the office, getting some work done. Man, I gotta say, it's a good thing. I'm so thankful for work. I'm so
It
thankful.
keeps your mind off of the craziness, right? I
It
remember in the
does.
beginning, we're just like so uncertain. I was like scared out of my mind. It's like, oh, am I
Yeah.
gonna get it? Am I gonna pass it on to my kids, my family, my parents who are older? Like, am
Yeah.
I gonna pass it on to my clients? And just
Right.
like all these questions that no one has answers for. And
Sure.
you can, I
Yeah.
mean, the best that we can do is be safe, stay
Yeah.
clean, stay healthy,
Right.
and then carry on in some ways. So
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So I've been doing these things, these little webinars, these Will and
Yeah.
Friends, and a lot of it is more so because everyone's sheltering in place and no one's
Yeah.
going anywhere. Why don't we provide content that's valuable? So whether it be business
Mm.
or just like I had a few physical instructors come on and do some exercises so that like people who are at home they can instead of we're saying like the freshman 15
Yeah.
now it's like the COVID 15 or the shelter
Yeah.
15 everyone is like snacking, eating.
Right.
We were doing all these Zoom calls with friends, and everyone's
Yeah.
like snacking on something. I was like, I want a snack too, so I bring out all my goodies. Like I shouldn't be eating this at like 10:30 at night, but what the heck?
That's
Let's do
funny.
it.
Yeah.
But just doing things, and it's been really cool. Like just even having you on, just other people on, just like providing
Yeah.
information for people to know, like, yeah, businesses aren't doing strong, or like this
Mm.
is other creative ways. So I had a co-founder of Food Beast come on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he was just talking about these are creative things that he's been seeing for
Yeah.
people to help small businesses, small
Right.
business restaurants, because
Right.
he's foreseeing, or the people he's talking to, that probably 30% or more of
Okay.
restaurants are going to be closed down once the
Oh,
quarantine
yeah.
is lifted.
Yeah.
So if there's like three favorite restaurants, one of them is going to be gone, and find the
Right.
ways to be able to support. Because even like my parents' restaurant, like they fortunately
Mm.
they were able to pick up or start the whole delivery service and get
Okay.
familiar with it. But if they
Yeah.
didn't have it, they have no idea who's coming to the restaurant. There's
Sure.
no way, and they didn't have the infrastructure within their website to say, "Hey, we're going to deliver." And so
Right.
there's a lot of restaurants that are probably in that same boat that
Yeah.
are struggling right now, and so it's tough.
It's super tough, man. That was like one of the things I've early on. I don't know what made me think about it, but like I have to say I really enjoy eating out. It's a comfort. It's a stress reliever. It gives some color to my week, right? And obviously, as a single person, like to be able to eat out with friends, or maybe just if I don't have a dinner planned, just going out to my favorite restaurant by myself. There's like a certain comfort. And I thought as this whole quarantine thing started happening, I thought I have no idea how these restaurants are going to survive. Like I think I was more concerned for restaurants than like my own and that's just the first thing that my mind went to, is because like that's such a valuable thing in my life. You know,
Yeah.
the restaurants that I love, like that's so valuable. I just, yeah, and it just, I'm, you know, I continue to be. I remember seeing David Chang. Was it David Chang? No, I'm sorry, not. Who's Momofuku? I keep forgetting.
Oh, I don't know, but I know what you're talking about. I just forget
I
the
don't
name
think
though.
I don't think it's David Chang. Anyway, whoever the owner of Momofuku was, I saw there was a post that he was basically shuttering. I think it was Momofuku. He was shuttering his restaurants, and I thought, whoa. When I
Yeah,
saw that, and this was like, you know, a month and a half ago. When I saw that, I thought, if this guy's shuttering his restaurants, what are the other mom and pops going to be doing? It's just,
right.
it's crazy.
And we had that discussion too about like Roos Chris getting that $20 million sort of like a bailout or that loan from the government. Did you
Oh,
hear about
really?
that?
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, dude. So it's crazy. So they recently they applied for the PPP, and they're considered a small business, 500 people or 500 associates or less, and
Okay.
they got it, and they
Wow.
got $20 million. And at the same time, I think their gross is like 100 million a year or something like that. And so people were
Wow.
outraged. They're like,
Yeah,
how
sure.
can Roos Chris get all this backing and this loan
Yeah.
where like mom and pops who need $15,000 just to survive
Right.
not get anything?
Sure.
Right. And so there's this huge debate that's being brought up. I guess Shake Shack was one of the first that got the loan as well, but
I
they
see.
were the ones who gave it back. And so
Oh,
they're
okay.
they're being left unscathed in some ways because they
Yeah.
were able to raise up some ridiculous amount in
Right.
funding from their private shareholders or stakeholders.
Sure.
But Bruce Chris is like, I don't know, should I hold it, should I not?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's why it's just like it's so fascinating, this like the social response to it, because Bruce Chris
Sure.
brand is getting tarnished in a lot of ways, because if they're holding on to
Mm,
it and then like
yeah.
these mom and pop shops are closing up and Bruce Chris
Right.
stays alive, then
Right.
what kind of image is that experience is that going to leave? So it's fascinating.
It's very fascinating. There's a lot of, yeah, I don't think I've even really spent enough time thinking about kind of the social repercussions and, you know, in terms of for businesses. Um, yeah, if anything, I think I've been thinking much more on a personal level of like, how do we as individuals process this, and hopefully, how do we come out of COVID-19 with a deeper sense of what we're capable of,
Hmm.
the kind of selflessness that we're capable of. One of the things that I feel like I've really seen is the fact that, you know, most people out there are willing to obey state orders, government orders to stay at home, to social distance, which is, to me, I mean, it sounds really basic, but it kind of just points back to, I think, people's love for life,
Yeah.
care for life, and it may not be entirely selfless, but also like people to some degree care for other people's lives too. Like we want our
Right.
society to go back to normal. We want people to survive. We don't want to overburden our medical system. So that's been really fascinating to see, because I can imagine it not being that way. I can imagine lots of people just going out and saying, who cares? We're just going to go out and party and keep going to the bars and keep going to restaurants and keep like, and not wear, you know,
Right.
not wear PPE and, you know, just be flippant about it. And it's funny, you hear some of those stories with some maybe irresponsible people. They're like, oh, who cares? Like they closed down some, you know, some underground club.
Right.
You're like, okay, seriously. The funny thing is, part of me totally gets that.
Yeah.
Like deep down, there's like a part of me that's like, man, when this thing is over, I'm gonna throw a party and invite like 1,000 people.
I think
Like
there's a
seriously,
lot of people's yeah.
I've been actually planning. I'm planning a party right now,
That's so funny.
and I'm gonna invite like 200 people.
That's
Because
hilarious.
I seriously, I am so done with quarantine. And it's funny because I'll talk to different people, and some people are like, oh yeah, people don't, you know, like even after quarantine is over, people are gonna want to stay home. Some people feel that way. I'm not
Yep.
one of those people. For me, I'm like, man, when quarantine's over,
It's over.
I'm gonna meet, like I'm gonna throw a party. There's gonna be,
So
you
funny.
know, there's gonna be tackle football, twister. We're gonna be hugging and like
Funny.
dancing.
Would you consider yourself an extrovert in that way? I remember talking about it a little bit.
Well, see, this is also, so this is the really one of the most intriguing things I've discovered during the quarantine is I go into the office. I'm pretty much the only person on my team that's at the office. I've enjoyed that so much more. Not because I don't like my teammates, but what I learned about myself is that I tend to feel the need to always check in with my teammates and feel really responsible for them.
Yeah.
I think that's just that's kind of who I am. There's, maybe there's that shepherding component inside of
Sure.
me that likes doing that. But now that they're not there, it's weird because I've realized, I don't actually really need to do this. Maybe I should just schedule like 5, 6 calls a day, however many calls I need to be having,
Yeah.
and have really focused call times. And then outside of those call times, I get to do my own work, my emails, the other things that I'm doing outside of meetings. Because I will say that as much as, so this is a really long-winded answer, but I've considered myself an extrovert for most of my life, but in the
Yeah.
last year or two, I've realized I think I've become much more of an introvert.
Hmm.
And during this quarantine, I've realized I'm definitely much more of an introvert than I even thought
Wow.
like a year ago. Yeah.
Interesting. Much
Yeah.
more of an
So
introvert than okay.
like I'm really social. Like I love people. I love being around people, but I think, and I kind of have a theory of introversion versus extroversion. Like my theory is I think introverts just spend a lot more time being thoughtful and considerate. And extroverts kind of just like to show up and be like, "Hey, what's up?"
Figure it as is. We're
Yeah,
there. We're present. We'll just figure it out.
exactly. So, and I think that's kind of how I was as a younger person. I was kind of
Yeah.
like, whatever, I'm just going to show up and like, be more intuitive.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, I'm like, there's so much stuff to figure out. Like people are so complex. I want to be very, very careful. So I'm going to have one conversation, take like a break, have another conversation, and then I'm done. I'm like
Yeah.
ready to go.
Yeah. It's almost like quality over quantity,
I think
right?
so.
Like I'd rather have a deeper conversation with one person than try to meet like 10, 15 people. They
Right.
don't remember me. I don't remember them. And it's
Yeah.
just like, nah,
Yeah.
I'm not with that. I already have enough friends that I don't keep up with,
Right.
let alone like meeting another person type of thing. So
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
fascinating.
What about you? What would you consider yourself in terms of introversion, extroversion?
Dude, it's actually, I mean, to your point,
Hmm.
it's similar to what you're saying because
Yeah.
I appreciate the downtime. I appreciate because there's in business you have to be creative. There's certain
Yeah.
processes that you just need to take time to take a step back to think through,
Hmm.
and yet at the same time, like I'm still up for a conversation. If someone wants to talk to me that I care about at like
Hmm.
2:30 in the morning, I'm down. I'll spend an hour talk. I might have slept only like 3.5, 4 hours yesterday, but I'm still down
Wow.
to talk to you, and I get
That's
the
cool.
energy. But I'll knock out right after. And
Yeah.
so it's a mix of both. You know,
Interesting.
I do find a lot just thankful that God just put like that curiosity in me and just like, oh, like how are you doing, and just seeing like, what other questions that come from that
Yeah.
or what they share.
Sure.
And
Sure. Sure.
but yeah, I think that's part of like being curious is like
Yeah.
meeting people and seeing what they say, and at the same time being curious in other ways, like
Yeah.
going back to textbooks or just thinking through a problem.
Sure.
And so yeah, I mean, because I was going to ask you, like you mentioned in the beginning, like you've appreciated this sort of quarantine shelter in place.
Hmm.
You've gotten so many things that you've taken away from it. I'd be curious, like, what are the things that you've taken away from it?
Yeah. So I mean, some of it has just been self-discovery. Some of it, I think, is an appreciation for technology. I'm a little bit of a Luddite, right? I don't. I'm fairly resistant to technology a lot of the times,
Interesting.
but
Wait, are you 84 to 2004?
meaning
Or were you born between 84 and 2004? So
I was
would you be
born in
considered a
81.
millennial?
Borderline. I was born in 81. So
Got it.
I've considered myself a Gen Xer most of my life.
Got it.
Some online sources say, "Oh, I'm a borderline millennial." Whatever.
Got it.
That's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind being a millennial. But I do feel I feel a little bit more of a Gen Xer.
Interesting.
But
The forgotten generation.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But the funny thing is though, is the millennials love all the Gen X stuff. It's like all the 80s and 90s music is all coming back, right? Like Stranger
That's true.
Things is supposed to be 80s. It's not 80s. It's so not 80s. They
It's a
just
modern
dress
twist to the 80s, I guess. Oh
yeah.
no.
But anyway, so What else have I learned? I think I mean, a lot of it has been around just the power of like focus, the power of I mean, for myself, not realizing that I don't always have to feel responsible for my teammates. I do want to be responsive, but responsive is not the same as responsible. And I think there's something really amazing. You know, people are responsible for themselves, and I think that's one of the really big, I think, realities I've discovered for myself is that people are responsible for themselves. But I can be here for them, and I can support them, and I can set up meetings to make sure that things are really productive. But to have to feel like I'm always responsible for them. I think that's one thing that's been really helpful for me. Um, we've ramped up a lot of, so we were already working on building out our e-commerce site. We're calling it web shop, right? So a shopping cart and being able to purchase product directly from our website, which we've been thinking about for a long time, but it's just never really happened because I was busy with other things. And then, with COVID, the
It sort
opportunity.
of forces that into the front.
It's kind of like, well, we have an opportunity. We want to create more business. We want to go direct to consumer. So we've been doing that and building.
Is that live or is that still in the works?
It's going to launch in the next week or two. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting, bro. That's super exciting.
Yeah, but technically the shop is up right now, but all of the items are sold out because we're not quite ready to go full blast, but
sure.
It's basically operational. Yeah, we just wanted to tie up a few loose ends before we officially launched it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about your business. Talk to us a little bit about Chimes for those who don't know about the company and what you do.
Sure. Chimes is a candy brand where, most of our products are gluten-free, vegan, all natural. That's kind of the space that we love playing in. We really want to bring people back to a place where they can have candy and feel good about it. Candy is always supposed to be something that you have when you just kind of need something to pick you up.
Right.
And that's something that we've been wanting to do. A lot of our recipes come from traditional Asian kind of recipes. So there's a ginger candy chewy ginger candy that's Indonesian. It's been around for a long time, very traditional recipe. It's really simple. It's a really simple recipe. It's just cane sugar, ginger, tapioca starch. It's got that really nice.
Wait, you're giving the secret away? What the?
What's that?
You're giving the secret away to your recipe?
Yeah, there's really no secret. There's no secret. We don't like to hide. There's no secret. It's open source.
Wow.
Anybody can make it at home, but we feel really proud of our recipe because it's the original recipe, and the ginger's from Indonesia. I think the unique thing about it is that the ginger's from Indonesia, where some of the best ginger in the world is. It's just amazing ginger that grows in Indonesia. It's just very, very, it's got a very complex, multi-layered flavor to it. And the spice that I think, that really, it's funny because I didn't grow up loving ginger, and it wasn't until I started working for Chimes. Yeah, I did.
Now I love it. Like kombucha with ginger and lemonade. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Or Chimes. It's like, oh yeah, give me that. I'll down a bag of that.
Yeah. So it's funny. Like over time, it's actually grown on me, and I really, love it. I have my own product now. Like I take it home. I love having it. Just whenever.
Just don't consume too much of your own product, bro.
Yeah. I know. But yeah, so that's who we are. We're a candy brand. One of the taglines that we've been kind of throwing around recently is "Feel the joy." We want to help people to feel the joy. We want to invite people to feel that joy. That's, sometimes it's a Thursday afternoon and you've had a hard work week, and it's just like, man, you just don't have the energy. You're not there anymore. You feel like you're a zombie. You're ready for the weekend, but it's just Thursday or it's just Wednesday, and it's on a personal level, it's been some of those Wednesdays and some of those Thursdays where I've been like, all right, I don't know where my next couple of days are going to come from. I don't have the energy. And literally, like, I'll have like a few ginger chews or a few of our toffees. We also have like a toffee product. It's, made from coconut milk.
Oh, how many different lines do you guys have?
What's that?
How many different lines do you have? You have the ginger, you have the coconut.
We have a ginger line, we have coconut line, and in the next couple of months, we're coming out with a new line. It's called the adaptogens. So
Huh.
adaptogens, it's just a fancy word that millennials came up with. But the key word there is to adapt. It helps. The ingredients. A lot of the ingredients come from Ayurvedic medicine or traditional Chinese medicine. So ashwagandha, reishi. Some of these kinds of ingredients they've been around for a long time. I mean, if you go to the supplement aisle, you'll see ashwagandha, reishi, lion's mane, chaga, um,
Interesting.
all sorts of these supplements that are plant-based. They're plant-based. A lot of them are um, they're mushrooms, or there's certain kind of roots. Ashwagandha is it's almost like a ginseng, but it's from India.
Yeah.
So we've incorporated these ingredients into our ginger chews as a way of um, bringing kind of like another layer of helping people to feel better, to feel that joy, to feel that relief, to feel that comfort
Mm.
that we want. That we've seen lots and lots of people, they that's what they say our products do for them. It's like, man, you
Interesting.
do this for us. And so we just thought, if our ginger chews is doing this, and what else is out there? What are other ingredients that are trusted for people for people to feel that way? And that's what we've started incorporating. So the next line that's coming out in a couple of months is going to be our adaptogen line. So really excited about that.
Dude, that's crazy. I wonder, I'd be really curious about the R&D process of that. Because you're talking about all these ingredients that I'm not aware of. Sounds very exotic. And yet at the same time, like knowing the ratios, I don't know. I'm making stuff up now, but just knowing how to create that product.
A lot of it starts with we want it to taste good. So the ginger candy obviously is our platform, or the coconut candy is our platform. So we start with something that's very familiar, right? You start with a recipe that's very familiar, and we say, we love this recipe. What could we do to just add something a little different to it? And that's what we do with every single new product innovation. Is we look at it and we say, we really like this. What would maybe complement this flavor well? So I mean, like
interesting.
Last year, our newest flavor was Meyer lemon, because people had been asking for it for a long time. People are really familiar with lemon. People are familiar with combining lemon and ginger as really one good way to feel better if they're sick or whatnot. And then we thought, okay, what else have we seen that people are already familiar with? And a lot of people do. They do shots in the morning with like lemon and ginger and cayenne. And so I thought, well, why don't we just throw some cayenne in there? And that's how we came up with the cayenne. So we came out with Meyer lemon. We have cayenne lemon. With these next two, the adaptogens, what we decided to do was so one of them was turmeric, because turmeric's just been all over the place. It's been around, once again, it's been around forever. Everybody knows about turmeric. And we thought, this is really just makes perfect sense. We're just going to put some turmeric, ashwagandha, put some reishi, put it in our ginger chew, and it just makes perfect sense already. Sure. And then we thought, well, what else could we do? I personally, I didn't grow up with a sweet tooth, and that just wasn't me. So like I said, I never really loved candy to begin with. But these last few years, even before, I'll be brutally honest here, even before I started eating, like loving ginger chews, which I do now, but even before I started loving ginger chews, I was like a total chocolate freak. Like, I love chocolate. I love dark chocolate, mostly darker. The darker, the better for me.
Yeah.
And so I thought, man, we need to use cocoa powder in one of our recipes. And so I've been thinking about that for a long time. And sure enough, finally we got around. And so one of the new recipes is going to be with cocoa powder, which I'm really, really excited about. We're using some really premium Dutch processed. So Dutch, for those that don't know, Dutch processing is simply you have an alcohol. You take a lot of the acidity out of the cocoa powder, and it's called a Dutch process. Sometimes it's also called alkalized cocoa. But essentially what it does is it makes it very, very dark. It's got even richer flavors. And we're using a very premium, I can't share the name of the company that we're using just because we kind of have a secret deal. But we're using a very, very premium chocolate, and it's unbelievable. It's amazing.
Oh my goodness. Oh, dude, don't tease me like that. Goodness, when's that going to be launched?
My aim is to launch it by July 1st.
Oh, so it's coming soon then.
It's coming soon, yeah.
Oh, how many other products do you have coming soon? So you have the whole adaptogen one, and then you have this cocoa one. How
Yeah.
many other ones are you planning to
Also,
launch?
the cocoa is one of the adaptogen
Got it.
products.
I
Yeah.
see. I see what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah.
Ah, I see.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm because a lot of people see like the health benefits from it, and a lot of
Yeah.
people would probably like shy away from calling it candy. They see it more
Well,
like a vitamin or
so that's kind of the
like gummy
fun,
vitamins are vitamins. They're not candy.
right,
It tastes like candy to
right,
me, but
right. See, that's where I think we get to have a lot of fun. We
hmm,
kind of get to be this, this interesting hybrid where people are used to candy's just candy. What, candy,
yeah,
whatever. It's just
Sour
candy.
Patch, licorice,
Yeah.
Reese's. That's my candy.
Yeah. But
That's also where I've got my COVID-15 or shelter in place 15 too.
yeah, that's
All
right.
those
I
stuff.
know. That's so fun. It's true. Yeah. People, and traditionally that's what candy is. Candy is just like, oh, it's just this thing that you do when you're bored or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You'll have, I'll have like, five Reese's peanut butter cups without realizing it. Like, oh my, what happened?
Right.
But what we're trying to do is, we're trying to give people another option. Hey, have something that's really, really tasty and it has great ingredients that help you feel better. So that's where I feel like we get to really play. And
Yeah.
it's like we're not playing the same game. We're actually playing a new game.
Interesting. You're
We're no longer
redefining the
playing on the
borders of
same
what candy
field.
is. Do you feel like there's a lot of people in that space right now?
Not a lot. And in fact, as far as I know, there is one chocolate company out there that they have some adaptogens. But that's the only one that I know of. I think we are going to, in terms of non-chocolate candy. So in the grocery, when grocery analysts, they look at the categories, there's candy is split up into chocolate and non-chocolate.
Hmm.
So two different categories. So as far as I know, we're the first non-chocolate adaptogen product.
Ooh, that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's what I've been trying to do. So that it was intentional for us to do that.
At the same time, from like from your own business background,
Mhm.
it's not like you've been doing this all your life, right? You've been doing it a majority of your adult life, but at the same time, not all your life. So tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so I've really only been part of Chimes for about 11 years now. So end of 2009 was when I joined Chimes. Prior to that, I was in a completely different field. I was studying to become a pastor. I had pastored for 3 years, and then I continued to pastor, and I was going to grad school, went to seminary, finished seminary, and at the end of seminary, it's when I realized I'm not so sure I feel quite ready to continue to be a pastor. I felt like I needed time off. I felt, there was a little bit of burnout that I had experienced
Sure.
in grad school,
Yeah.
and so I thought I'm going to take a step back from what I've been doing for the last 6 years, and I'm going to join the family business. So my dad is the one that actually founded Chimes. So I joined the
How long
family
has it
business.
been in the family too?
Well, so he took over this business in, I think, 86,
Oh, wow.
85. Yeah. So in the early 80s, mid 80s, mid 80s.
Yeah.
So it's been around for a little while now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, sorry. Go. You were talking about your transition, and you were feeling a little burnout.
Yeah. Just feeling a little burnout. And so I decided, and the funny thing is I never even wanted to be part of the family business. I just thought like, just no interest, you know, I kind of took business for granted. I just felt like, this is all really like whatever.
Was your dad very gung ho about you taking over the business? Like, did he already
He
have
wasn't.
grand plans?
Yeah, he actually wasn't. He was actually
Oh, interesting.
very hands off. He was very hands off with what I studied in college. He was very, he just, all right, do what you want to do, and he was very hands off.
I wonder if that was reverse psychology. He's like, do whatever you want to do, but in reality, I'm going to throw all these hints about you taking over the business or you joining the business. Because my dad was totally opposite.
Oh, is it?
I don't remember like direct conversations, but I remember after I graduated, he's like, "Hey, son, you want to take over the business? Hey,
Yeah.
son, I'm getting a little older now. I don't know where the
Oh,
business is
wow.
going, but are you interested? I don't know about your siblings, but you're local, you know." I was just like, and then I've had that conversation with Deborah. I was like, hey, Deborah,
Yeah.
we have an opportunity to take over the business. It's been in the family. We're running close to like 35, 40 years now being
Wow.
there. And
Yeah.
yeah, kudos to them for just their
Yeah.
hard work. We're
It's
like, hey,
amazing.
we can keep up this tradition. I'll figure it out. It won't be as crazy. And then she's like, she at first was open to it.
Uh-huh.
And she just open to the idea of it.
Yeah.
But she came down for like a holiday, and it was
Uh-huh.
like Thanksgiving week, and that's one of the crazier weeks. And she's
Okay.
like, "This is what you guys do? You guys
Wow.
don't eat dinner until like 10:30 p.m. and then sleep at like 2 in the morning? No, this is not the lifestyle. This is not the career path you're going down." We're like, "Oh, okay. I guess that made my decision pretty clear."
Sure, sure. That's, you know, and I think it's in times like these that we get to reflect on what our parents did, what they went through, the kind of sacrifices that they made, the choices that they made to provide the material stability, in addition to all the other kinds of stability that comes from that material stability. But yeah, what's it been like for you as you've reflected during this season, maybe on business, on your parents' business, on where you are right now as a professional?
Right. I mean, for my parents' business, I just hear from them because I'm concerned, concerned about their health. Like, should the restaurant still be open?
You know,
Could they be? But yeah, they're very set. I'm not gonna say another word like a stubborn, but they're set
yeah.
on wanting to open the business and serve in that way. And
Hmm.
like, my heart is full of gratitude to the neighbors, to the people they served, because
Hmm.
they're coming out to support them. They were off for 2 weeks, and then when they found out they were back, they rushed the doors. They rushed it for a couple of weeks or for that
Wow.
weekend, and yeah, I mean, definitely brought tears to my eyes in the sense like, wow,
Mm.
it's just like you just don't do that for anybody in some
Yeah.
sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that special connection that they've been able to do, and they've been doing it the right way. They're not
Yeah.
just there just to cheat people of money, but they're there to actually serve them, love on them, provide a good product, and
Hmm.
the communities responded well to that. So it's just
Mm.
immense gratitude to the community around that neighborhood where the restaurant's at,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just like we're stronger together.
Hmm.
And a lot of people have been talking about this. There's so much division, whether it be politics or
Hmm.
whatever the interest is, and
Yeah.
like we had to have an event like this to like bring us together. We're
Yeah.
here for you. Like we were seeing posts about let's get groceries for the people who are higher risk or those who are elderly, and finding ways to support and help each other.
Sure.
And it's been really neat to see that just coming around and being united in that sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's been really cool that way.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah. But continue with the chime. So um you started that after you transitioned from the pastorate or seminary into your family business. How
Right.
did that go?
It was very hard for a number of years. I think it was hard because some of my own story, my own narrative, my own kind of interpretation of what had happened at the end of seminary was that I had let a lot of people down
Uh,
because I originally wanted to go back into the missions field. So some of my own kind of judgment or my own assessment of what had happened at the end of seminary was that I had kind of like failed.
uh,
And as I look back on that, I don't think that that was necessarily a failure. I think it was just assessing what I felt like I was capable of and realizing I don't feel quite capable of filling this role at this point of my life. And so, you know, but for a number of years, I had this kind of guilty sense of like, yeah, I can't go back. I can't go back to being a pastor. This just doesn't feel like who I can be, even though I wanted to be a pastor. So that was a struggle for a long time. And I was actually even talking to another former missionary friend last night, and we were both saying like, yeah, we both had those really similar feelings. Sometimes to this day, sometimes thoughts will pop up of like, man, I kind of feel like I let people down, right? So that was an experience that I really felt like I had to get through. One of the feelings was that I was, comparing myself with a lot of my peers and feeling really behind. Like all of my friends were these college grads, and right out of college they were making X amount of money, and like, oh my gosh, like I'm so behind. a lot of these friends are like lawyers and doctors and software engineers. And so they're making like really good money. And here I am, like, holy smoke, I'm not making half of what they're making.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not making half of what their 23-year-old selves were making. And here I
Yeah.
am as a 28-year-old, and I'm like, so feeling really, really behind. A lot of comparison, a lot of, a sense of inadequacy, of not meeting up, not, inadequacy, of not kind of being where my peers were. So I struggled with that for quite a few years. And I think as a reaction to that, I really threw myself into work. I really wanted to put a good effort into it and also have a good showing for it.
Yeah.
And I think the work was very meaningful, but at the same time, it was very frustrating because it's like,
Hmm.
part of a family business. There's not the resources are limited on some levels. There's more flexibility with the family business, but in terms of expertise and in terms of, especially because Chimes is a startup
Hmm.
like brand, very, very new brand in a very new space, organic and natural foods is still it's a Wild West environment.
Even now, huh?
I would say so to some degree. Yeah.
Okay.
It's still kind of Wild West. It's a lot,
Yeah.
there's lots of startups, brands are failing. There's more brands that fail every year than brands that succeed.
Wow.
And a lot of that, I think it's as a result of 2009 and after quantitative easing. So a lot of the quantitative easing pumped a lot of money into the system, and it allows for that kind of innovation and lots of funding and capital that's available for startups. But there's lots of great ideas, but not all of them are going to succeed. So
Yeah.
lots of
Yeah.
failure as well. And so being in that kind of very scrappy environment, very competitive environment, it was hard, and it continues to be a challenge. Like, it's definitely a challenge to really stand out and to really be able to get people's attention.
Yeah. And so you obviously, with experience and with time, you were able to grow up the ranks. So now what's your position within the company?
Yeah, I'm, the janitor, so that's kind of
Still work on those toilets, man. You save on the
somebody's
toilet
got to
paper
do
though.
it. Somebody's got to do it. Yeah. No, but I mean, my official title is I'm business development manager, which I think I enjoy developing the business, so that's kind of why that's the title. Effectively, I think I do a little bit more. I'm pretty much on more of a C level, right? Like, I guess CEO would be really effectively a little bit closer to what I am. I lean on
Your
my
dad's
dad.
not willing to relinquish that just yet, huh?
Well, the thing is, he's not even CEO. He's just the president of Roxy. He's like,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, we don't have in our company. We don't actually have C level. It's president, general manager. But I have brought on an interim CFO. Like, I have a part-time CFO, fractional CFO. I have a couple of mentors, business mentors that have been in various parts of the industry that are very, very helpful. I have a couple of business coaches that I meet with on a fairly regular basis. I have a business owners peer group that I meet with on a regular basis, on a monthly basis. And so I, by God's grace, I've really been able to surround myself with a lot of mentors and people that are much more experienced than I am to be able to speak into our business as well.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm looking at the time. Wow.
Yeah.
It's already like 4:50, and
Yeah.
I've taken up close to an hour of your time. I have two final questions. I don't want to take much more, and yet at the same time, I think there's a lot of people. This is an interesting year, right? They're graduating college. It's very similar, not the same as 08, 09, where there's a lot of uncertainty.
Right.
And I mean, there's always uncertainty coming out of college, right? Everyone expects you to know what you're going to do, what you're supposed to be for the next 60 years or something like that.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give, especially with the things that you've gone through from your experience, to those college grads or even high schoolers who are going into college, trying to figure out what they want to do?
Wow. What kind of advice would I give?
Or maybe if it might be even better, like if you were to talk to your younger self,
Sure.
right,
Yeah,
knowing what you've gone
absolutely.
through, what would you say?
I would say just try whatever's in front of you. Try
Interesting.
whatever's in front of you. It doesn't have to, and a lot of the there's a lot of contemporary coaches out there. You've got, Gary Vaynerchuk, you've got Simon Sinek,
Yeah.
Brene Brown. There's a number of these coaches that are out there, and I'm not necessarily endorsing them, but I think it's really interesting to see that coaching has become a really big business these days, like
Huge.
personal life coaching or business coaching. Um, some of what they say, I hear a theme, and one of the themes for our generation, for millennials, for people, younger professionals, one of the themes I hear is just go do something, go try something. It doesn't have to be your permanent thing. And right at this point in my life, I've had two different careers, right? I've been a missionary and a pastor. I've also been a candy maker on some, that's kind of what I
Willy
kind of,
Wonka. You're the Asian Willy Wonka.
I'm an Asian Willy Wonka. That's right.
Dude, you have the hair like it too now. You just need a hat.
That's funny. Yeah, yeah. And the funny thing is though, like what you do isn't necessarily who you are. What you do
Amen.
isn't necessarily
Amen.
who you are is who you are. Your character, your personality, who you are as a friend, who you are as a son or a daughter, who you are as an individual towards yourself, that that is independent of what you do. So I would say, with regards to finding a job or finding a career path, try it. Just try whatever you get your hands onto. It doesn't have to be the perfect thing the first time out. And more you see people that have several careers. I mean, you yourself, you've been through a
Yep.
couple of different fields, right?
Yep.
So I
Yeah.
think you and I have both experienced that. Like, look, life's not about getting it right the first time. Life's just about waking up, getting out of bed, giving it a shot, right? And then coming
Yeah.
back home, talking to your friends, talking to people that are close to you, and reflecting and seeing like, hey, is this a good fit? And
That's a huge component, like that
yeah,
social component, whether it be your family, your friends, or those who
yeah,
you put yourself around,
right,
because they notice certain things, they notice certain
yes,
strengths, or they notice that you're grinding, and yet at the same time it's drudgery, or there's a
yeah,
lot of
sure,
things that's sucking the life out of you,
yeah,
and there could be like a balance of something else, or maybe a pivot into a different industry, or
sure.
pivot into a different, or just taking a break in general.
Taking a
But
break, yeah.
having that social group is important.
And I'm so glad that you brought that up because that was the second thing I was going to say is really develop your friendships.
Hmm.
And it's funny as a younger person, I consider like I was extremely social. Like I actually had less than a 3.0 GPA and I got into college.
You got the Berkeley with less than 3.0? No, shut up.
And the reason I think part of the reason that happened was because I did all sorts of extracurricular stuff and I was very, very social.
It's so interesting. We're very similar. I
Oh,
cheated my way through high school. I got a weighted GPA. I was like a weighted 3.8. And
yeah.
by the grace of God, I got into UCLA.
Yeah.
Seriously, SATs and ACTs. I just look at my neighbors like tests, even though they had different test forms. I don't know why I didn't think about that. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't know what the answer is. They probably have a better answer, and stuff like that. But I was really involved in extracurriculars as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
but
so
so
interesting.
what I discovered about myself is that I was very social as a younger person, but I wasn't relational. And it's very different, right? Being social and being relational are two very different things. And as a 28-year-old, after I graduated from seminary, I had to relearn relationships
Hmm.
because I was really used to people coming to me as a pastor. I was used to people walking up to me and like, hey, what's the answer to this question? Or what does this Bible verse mean? Or can you pray for me? And so it's like, as a pastor, people are always coming to you for help. But then when I stopped being a pastor, nobody came to me. And I was like, nobody's coming
Interesting.
to me. I have no
Interesting.
relationships. And I had to learn relationships take work. They take initiative. They take listening. And one of the biggest things I've been learning these last couple of years is how do I listen really, really well to people? How do I invest in like being interested in people? Like what you're doing right now, Will, you've taken an interest in me, my life, my business. That is so valuable and that's so rare in our society. Listening is so, so, so rare.
Hmm.
Taking an interest in people is so, so rare. We're so used to telling other people what we're about, posting this thing, putting up my YouTube, which is all great. Those can be very, very good things, but how well do we listen? And so I think that one of the things I had to learn is also, after grad school, as I had to relearn life a little bit, was number one, try whatever's in front of you. Number two, really invest in my friends. Like really
Hmm.
spend time. Just hey, do you have time for lunch? Do you have time for dinner? And keep asking. You have time for lunch. You have time for dinner. You have,
Taking the initiative to do that
yeah.
instead of being passive and waiting for someone to invite you or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So,
Oh my goodness, dude, there's so many other things I could ask you about, but I know you're a busy man. And I really appreciate you taking this time out of your weekend when you can be resting, you can be doing a whole host of other things. But taking this time just to chat, talk, and even ask me questions, I really appreciate that.